Okay, y'all. Good morning. Good morning. So it's Tuesday morning, and Zach just left. We're getting a little bit of a late start, which is okay. You know, it's this time of year. That's how it goes sometimes. So y'all know yesterday I was talking about that job I was over there with that ivy, and then the one next door where they cleared all them trees. So I pitched that to the owner, and he wants me to give him a price. So I don't really know. See, and that's where I'm weak at right now, with you know, the Bobcat and all. Because if you look online and say, okay, what do you know, what's the going rate for a Bobcat? And then people always want to, you know, compare that with a rental, right? But a rental is totally different, because when you rent a machine like I got, it doesn't come with a power rake and you know, grapple bucket and an operator. Okay, so it's hard to determine, you know, what it would cost them if they did it, right? Because there's a lot of things that you got to pay for that if you do it yourself. And I'm always trying to compare what I would charge, compare it to what it would cost them to do it themselves, right? But the factor you can't really add in there that's vital is well, the experience, right? And also the attachments that I have. You know, to rent a skid steer like mine in my area, now I know there's going to be people saying that, you know, they're not that expensive and all that, but to rent a Bobcat in my area, a track machine like mine, minimum, and that's if you can pick it up, is about $500 a day. And that's just with a bucket. That's it. If you get a brush cutter, or a brush cutter is about $200 a day, and if you get a power rake, that's about $200 per day. And then a grapple bucket, that's about $200 per day. So it's hard to get to figure out the pricing. I'm always trying to figure out exactly what it would cost them, and then I base my, you know, if they did it themselves, then I base my price off of what it would cost them. You know, in some jobs I make more on than other jobs, but I haven't really gotten it down to a science, the exact method of charging. Now I can always charge by the hour, but I don't like to do that. But sometimes, some jobs you just have to, because I don't know of any other way to do it. I know if I charge by the hour, I'm going to make money, but I might be able to make more money if I don't charge by the hour. The biggest thing is pitching the job and coming up with a number that they can see daylight, and not losing the job because your number's too high, you know, because these people can spend the money or not. It doesn't, you know, I could tell him, you know, $5,000, and that might be the difference. I mean, he might not do it because he might think it's only worth $4,000, or, you know, whatever. I'm just using those numbers as examples. So that's the biggest dilemma that I see in me and the skid steer game, right? Is knowing how to charge it. And I don't. I'll be the first to say I don't know exactly how to charge everything. But you have to give options to the customers, right? You got to show them sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you got to show them, well, if you were to do it yourself, this is what it would cost you. If you hire me to do it, this is what it would cost you. And a lot of times, if they do it themselves, of course, it's probably going to be a little bit cheaper, but they got to do the work, right? They got to devote the time. But considering I own all the attachments and the skid steer, them doing it themselves, if they have to go rent and they can't haul the machine and all that, you're talking about to have all the attachments that I have. And of course, you'd be more methodical about renting the attachments. You'd rent them as you needed them. So if I go over to a job like now, I go over to this job, just say, and I would take the grapple bucket, I would take the power rake, and I would take the brush cutter, right? And of course, always take a regular bucket wherever I go. Now, those 4 attachments minus the bucket, because when you rent a skid steer, they'll give you a bucket to go with it. In my rental place, they'll even ask if you want a flat bucket or a tooth bucket. I always pick the tooth bucket. But if you're in the rental part of it, right, and you don't have all the attachments like I do, then you wouldn't want to take the power rake over there on day 1 if you're going to be over there for 3 days. So, because you're not going to be using the power rake on day 1. So you would want to wait, and theoretically what I would do is I would go over there with, you know, the brush cutter, or, and then if I had to rent something, I would wait until I needed it, and then I would go rent it. But in my case, I don't have to do none of that. I just take all the attachments over there, and I'm gold, right? But you figure about $200 a day, you know, to rent each attachment, and plus you got to go get it and take it back and all that. And a lot of the rental places around here, they don't have the brush cutters, you know, the bush hog brush cutters, or whatever you want to call them. I don't know why, but they don't have them where you can rent them. Or what they do, they're they're limited on inventory or whatever. So that's where I'm at on that. I don't really know exactly how to charge. I'm thinking, you know, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, you know, 3 days over there. That's what I'm thinking. 2.5 to 3 days. So I'm thinking, you know, $1,300 a day, something like that. And that might be a little bit cheap, but I can do it a little bit cheaper because all the equipment's paid for and I own it. If I go any more than that and he says no, then I got nothing. I know that I can make money over there at $1,400 per day. I know I could. That would be, you know, I would say 3 days. You know, I'm talking about with me bidding. It might not actually take me that long, but that's that's the only way I know how to bid things at this point. I don't want to tell them I'll do it by the day or by the hour. I just want to calculate in my head about how long it'll take and then throw that number out there. And then if I beat that time, then I'm making really good money. And if I don't beat that time, then I'll learn from it, and I'm not losing money. I'll learn from it and move on. Clearing that ivy over there would not be a hard job for the machine or nothing. But there's a lot of unknowns too. There's a lot of, you know, things that can get in the way. I don't know what kind of, you know, stuff they got running through that ivy or whatever. I will probably go over there with a brush cutter first and run the brush cutter up through there, and just to get a feel for the ground and everything. And then come back after you get everything mulched up real good, you know, and then put the tooth bucket on and drag it some to where you can get the exposed dirt and roots and all, and then bring the power rake in there and just go around all the trees with the power rake, and then, you know, push over some trees, small trees that are, you know, junk anyway. So that's kind of, you know, my thinking on that job. I don't really know how to charge it though, I'll be honest, and I got to get better at that. And that's one of the drawbacks that I feel when I'm looking at skid steer work. I'm afraid I'm gonna take a hit, you know, and I got to stop thinking like that. And I got to know that, well, if you take a hit, you'll learn from it as long as you're getting the job, and it's not, you're not going backwards, and you're learning from your experiences, right? Of course, I'm not going to go over there and charge $20 an hour either. So my thinking is, and y'all tell me based on the video yesterday, my thinking is around $3,500, something like that. And that would be to grade that area out in front where they did all that work. You know, well, basically what I do there is I would put the brush cutter in there, and I would you know, use the brush cutter to mulch up all the rotten limbs and, you know, pieces of tree that they left there, and all of it looked pretty. None of it's green stuff. It's all rotten pine. And then, you know, use that and then power rake that area. Now with the ivy, that's going to be a little bit more time consuming. So my thinking is $3,500 to do, you know, all of that, which would be, you know, to me, 2.5 to 3 days. And then of course these are not 10-hour days either. These are 6-hour days. So I just haven't done enough big projects with this guy to know what he's willing to spend. I mean, he'll spend, but you got to be careful about how high you go, because if you go more than what he thinks, and he'll just say no, and then you're out, you know. But he will spend money, and it does look bad over there. So, and he does know me. I mean, I've known him for 10 years, 11 years. I just haven't, I've been dealing with another executive over there, not him. So now I'll be dealing with him on any of these other projects. And this is the same guy where me and Francisco pulled down a few trees, you know, a couple months back in July, right over here. And this is a regular customer of mine. So if I could get, you know, $3,000, $3,500, something like that, for 2.5 to 3 days of work, it'd be worth it to me. Now, some of you guys might say, dude, that's too expensive. And then some of the other guys might say, man, it's a $50,000 job. But you got to understand where I'm at. And I know that it's not a $50,000 job. I know it's not a $10,000 job. I know it's not, well, hell, I don't even think it's a $5,000 job. So you got to kind of loosely look at how long it's going to take you and all that, and what the going rate is around here. You know, when you're dealing with him. Now, every customer is a little bit different. You know, on other jobs, you know, like I'm pitching to him, so I might have to draw back just a little bit on my numbers because I'm pitching to him. Now, if he were coming to me and say, hey, Ray, I really need to get this done, blah, 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 then, you know, it would be, I would approach it a little bit different. But see, I need to get out of that mentality. My mentality needs to be, this is what it's going to cost, instead of me, you know, since I have the ability to adjust the numbers, because I don't have the overhead that a lot of other people may have. I can adjust the numbers, and since I can adjust the numbers, I don't want to adjust the numbers too low. And he's not going to let me adjust them too high. So I need to be, and you got to consider also how much work they're giving me, right? And the future of the relationship too. You guys be thinking like that when you're out here like I am. So he texted me back and said, hey, give me a number for each. I want to do them a solid, right? But I don't want to take a hit because I want to get more work out of them. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, once you know, this is my thinking, and I'm not a professional bidder or nothing. My thinking is, once I pitch that number to him, he's gonna be just like I am. He's gonna look in the head, oh no, that's too much. We'll have to wait on that. And then once he says that, then it ain't gonna happen. So that's the way it is, you know. So I think before I pitch the actual number, and I think about what it's going to cost me to do it, and then I think about how bad it needs doing. Now, he doesn't live there, he's renting it, so on a scale of 1 to 10 being important, it's probably like a 4. If it were at his house, well, it'd probably be like a 9 or a 10. You know, you got to factor in the numbers. What's he getting for rent, and how long is it going to take him to get his money back for something that he really doesn't have to do? Now, I know, well, Ray, you're thinking too much into it. You need to give him a price on what it costs you to do it. Right, and you're right. But I also need to think about the longevity of the relationship too. And these folks, this business, they have money to spend on this type of stuff. It ain't like, you know, dealing with Johnny Homeowner. You just got to make sure that your number is friendly enough for them to see daylight, and friendly enough that they understand that they're getting a better deal because they're giving me a lot of work. You want them to know that. All right, y'all, so we got done today. Wasn't a lot going on. You know, like I was saying, it's real slow right now. And so I'm having to, and it's always like this, every year it's like this. I mean, it's the same thing. I expect it, so I don't really freak out about it because, well, number one, I'm tired, you know, of just the whole grind at this point. So, and I don't, you know, want to be out there working and not making as much money as I normally make, and it be obvious. So I had one guy come in the comments yesterday. It's the same old dude, whatever his name is. He was coming at me, telling me, you know, that I should spend the time it takes to clean out those beds, and, you know, they're obviously trying to rent the place and blah, blah, blah. Well, they're not going to be renting it until, I mean, the whole inside is tore up. All I was saying really was that, you know, why would they put mulch and pine straw down when they got all these trees that are still going to be dropping leaves, unless they, you know, are mandated to do that or pressed to do that for whatever reason. So, and they're not. He's saying that it's probably going to be December before they rent them out. Well, the one out. Now, the other one's already rented. So, yeah. So, I don't know where, you know, this guy always coming in the comments, you know, with some kind of Debbie Downer type crap. Yeah. He likes to see his own comment in lights, I guess. You know, then he goes on to attack the business model, and, you know, I mean, kind of lame at this point. It really is. There's no, you know, no matter how you spin it, it doesn't make sense to me. And you know, the videos that I do are all about my thoughts and stuff. Not that they're important or not important, it's just what they are. They are what they are, right? But every time I put a video out, this guy comes in the comments with something, you know, usually it's off the wall, some stupid shit where he didn't watch the whole video, or he didn't grasp the topic of the video. So,
hello.
Welcome to our car wash. We're gonna run the truck through this car wash real quick. With that particular job yesterday, you know, with the empty property that's under construction, why in the world would you put mulch in? You know, and then he says, you know, well, you know, since he's your buddy, you're his go-to guy, why would he hire somebody to do the mulch? Well, I don't do mulch, dude. I mean, I don't know if you knew that or not. I mean, I might do 1 or 2 mulch jobs a year, but they pay extremely well. I don't do mulch jobs for typical. When I do mulch jobs, it's probably, you know, $175, $180 a yard for me to do a mulch job. That's just the reality of it. You know, he can get it done a lot cheaper. He has all these Mexican guys working for him that does, you know, the house and, you know, paint and sheetrock and all that. What he did was he had one of those guys go to Home Depot and buy like 100 bags of mulch, and him and those guys threw that shit down real quick. You know, he probably was gonna have to pay them. You know, it probably pays them by the hour. So we had them over there doing paint, and they ran out of paint stuff. That's what he did. He let them do the mulch over there, so he wouldn't have to, you know, well, get a better deal. I don't do mulch. I mean, I will. I mean, y'all can look at the videos that I do, man. Y'all don't see me on many mulch jobs. You know, maybe one a year, maybe two at the most. But it's paying top dollar. And I'm gonna be getting the mulch too. So with that being said, so if the mulch job is paying, you know, most of the guys around here charge about $100, $110 a yard. I won't do it for that. So when I do mulch, it's $150, $175 a yard. But I can get mulch. I can get mulch pretty cheap. I just don't like doing it because it's not something that I like, you know. And since and it requires, you know, a lot of labor, and I don't, you know, I don't want to do all labor work. I want machines to do everything, and I can't get a machine. I ain't found a machine yet that'll freaking lay mulch for me. So there's that too. So don't come at me talking about he kicked me to the curb and why wouldn't he let me do the mulch job. I don't do mulch. I mean, he knows that. I mean, all my customers know that I don't do mulch. Don't do pine straw either. If I do pine straw, we had about $13 or $14 a bale. When there's guys out there that do it, provide the pine straw and everything for $5 a bale. I can't even buy it for $5 a bale. So there's some work that I don't do, that I don't have to do, that you may have to do because you got to pay all them stupid employees. I don't have to do that. You know, where you're making nothing, barely covering your costs when you're doing mulch and pine straw. I mean, now if they come at me and say, hey, we'll give you $14 a bale to do pine straw, okay, I'll do that. But nobody does that because that's really overpriced. But when I do pine straw, we ain't doing 100 bales. We might do 25 or 30, but I'm at $12 a bale or something like that, you know. Whatever the market can bear. So I hate doing it. So, and retail for mulch around here is about 40 bucks a yard. My cost for mulch around here is about $27 a yard. But I don't like doing it. I just don't, man. It's just, and if I'm gonna do it, it's not gonna be now. I don't care what everybody else is doing. So that's why he didn't ask me to do the mulch. I told him when I was over there doing the cleanup that, you know, that everything needed to be done over there, you know. But when I found out that he wasn't renting it out until, you know, December, I ain't trying to sell no mulch. Number one, he don't want to pay what I need to make on mulch. This particular customer, they own a big commercial outfit already, and they got guys that work for them. They don't do lawn care, but they do a service, and they got equipment and everything. So a lot of times when they run low on work, he'll let his guys do, you know, they employ like 60 people. So, and this time of year, and their business is just like mine, you know, it's a little bit slower. So he let some of his guys do the painting over there, and then he sent them to Home Depot to, you know, I mean, landlord type people do this kind of thing all the time. And I've been working for them for, well, how long? 12 or 13 years, and I've never done one mulch job for them. Never. I've never wanted to. Because I know what they'll pay for, what I need to make. Somebody else could do mulch, and they might be able to do it cheaper because they love doing it, and they don't have a bunch of lawn care customers. You know, I used to do a lot more of mulching and stuff like that when I didn't have as many lawns to cut. But what did you rather do? Do mulch jobs or sit on a Laser Z X Series? What, and make the same money? You know, I had rather and be able to do a lot of work in one day. You get a mulch job, well, I got to go get the mulch. Of course, I'm making money at every turn. You got to, and it's okay if you got, you know, labor that can handle it. But I think in the last 2 years, I may have done 3 or 4 mulch jobs, and they're all regular customers. And a lot of times, my regular customers come at me asking me to do mulch, and I put it in the same category in my head as pine straw. I'm good. I don't want to do it, especially when they're wanting to do it, you know, in the summertime. You know, the best time to do mulch, if you ask me, and I'm not a rocket scientist or nothing, the best time to do mulch is right after the leaves fall. I mean, right after that. As soon as you look up in the trees and all the leaves are gone, you clean out the beds, then you put mulch down, and then it'll last all the way until the leaves fall again. If you do mulch now, well, it's not going to look great. It's just not. It'll look okay until tomorrow, you know. Stupid shit, man.